What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Pokemon has a habit of going back and provide new updates to Pokemon in numerous ways, including new evolutions, regional forms, Mega Evolutions, Gigantamax forms, Paradox Pokemon, or even Z-moves to an extent were a way to bolster previously existing Pokemon that maybe didn't hold up against the onslaught of new additions that pile up every generation. But there are still some Pokemon that can fare decently well and be useful while having none of these aspects, and remain the same old friends that we've known for years. So let's see who are the best untouched Pokemon out there, and just for this video, we'll be starting off with the Kanto region. Number 6. Venomoth. So we know that bugs have a rather low reputation in general, and Gen 1 is pretty much where that all started. Mostly because there weren't really any useful bug attacks to speak of, but Venomoth has persisted nonetheless. It's not particularly unique, having clear similarities to Butterfree and the same typing as Beedrill, yet those Pokemon have at least had some attention over the years, while this one has not. Which could mean that this one was in a better position to begin with, I suppose, or maybe it's been the moves and abilities that it's gotten over the decades. Arguably, those could be considered touch-ups, but since every Pokemon has gotten new moves and abilities, it's hardly considered special. Even though Venomoth getting a choice of Shield Dust, Tinted Lens, or Wonder Skin are all pretty great options for a passive trick to use. Of course, it's always had the powder moves for status effects, and strong psychic attacks, to the point where the Psychic-type gym leader even decided to use one. But on top of the other coverage, like flying attacks or even Giga Drain, I think the greatest tool that Venomoth has received is Quiver Dance, allowing it to boost its special stats and speed, and wouldn't you know it, those are Venomoth's highest stats anyway, simply turning it into a terror in the mid-game. Although using one there may be a bit difficult, since this line can be kind of scarce sometimes, which may be part of why it's been overlooked for all of these gimmicks, but at least Venonat is a cute, unique kind of bug. If nothing else, having that little guy as your travel partner would be quite fun. So even if I do think personally that a regional variant of Venonat being a Dust Bunny would be really cool, I have to admit that these Pokemon are fine without any of those upgrades, and despite remaining as plain as possible since their debut, while the world around them has changed, they have successfully carved out a niche for themselves in the underutilized bug market. All I'm saying is it helped to fill out the holes in my team quite a bit when I picked one up for my Alpha Sapphire Nuzlocke. Number 5. Golduck. Honestly, I was shocked that Golduck was even eligible for this list, since at least Psyduck seems like it's been consistently popular or been given plenty of attention over the years, but they've never had any of the new forms or gimmicks of any kind. Maybe that's intentional so as not to mess with a good thing, but since even the Pikachu line has been treated with these add-ons, that's probably not the case. However, Golduck is a relatively solid Pokemon, all things considered. I mean, there are many water types in Gen 1, so it is understandable if you've never used it, but Golduck still stands up respectably. Sure, other untouched Pokemon like Victreebel are stronger attackers, but Golduck is better rounded with its defenses and speed, and as we know, Pure Water is a decent typing, whereas Grass is a liability. But Golduck, to the confusion of many, has had plenty of psychic attacks in its level-up moveset for years, on top of the Water, and of course the traditional Ice that's common amongst water types as well. Maybe its abilities aren't all that flashy, but stopping explosions or preventing weather are actually more useful than you might think. And once again, Psyduck has remained a sort of icon for Pokemon, on par with Jigglypuff, both stemming from a charismatic performance early in the anime, and thus sticking with fans ever since. So it appears that the people in charge are fine with these ducks remaining as they are. And aside from Golduck's questionable shiny coloring, I have to say I agree, because when I actually used one, it pretty easily carried my team through to the end. Number 4. Dodrio. There are a lot of bird Pokemon nowadays, but already in Gen 1 it was a recurring theme, so I don't blame anyone for not wanting another bird by the time they actually got to find a Doduo, but picking one up could be a huge benefit. Its abilities are nothing special, but if you take the time to try out Dodrio, you will find a bird that is easily stronger and faster than the other more readily available options. In fact, Dodrio is just about the fastest flying type in the region, second only to Aerodactyl, and it is far easier to get a hold of this triple-headed dodo. Really, only its specials are lower than most other flying types, but Are you really gonna care about that when you can just Swords Dance and then use a 120 base power stab boosted Thrash, hitting 2 to 3 times? Because the normal type here should not be overlooked for how useful it is against most Pokemon, while still being able to use the flying type to take out ghosts. Not to mention the fact that these flightless birds can actually fly and take you wherever you want to go in the region. Plainly put, even while other 3-headed Pokemon from Kanto have gotten a leg up over time, Dodrio is still firmly in the race as far as useful Pokemon go. Number 3. Starmie. As I said before, Kanto is flooded with Water-type Pokemon, so I'll be honest, I'm usually intending to try out some other Pokemon before I can ever even find a Staryu, but it's still a good choice. Water and Psychic both are strong special types, and Special Attack just happens to be Starmie's go-to option. But it's actually somehow faster than the sprinting bird that we just mentioned. That's ridiculous. That means that you'll get hit with a Hydro Pump or a Psychic or a Blizzard before you even know it. And that's something that should be regarded for Starmie as well, that its move pool is too good, and being restricted to 4 slots is a handicap for this 10-pointed star. I mean, should you have Rapid Spin to get rid of hazards? Perhaps a Dazzling Gleam to take on dark types that you're weak to? Or just Recover to shake off that damage altogether. Also, this part is more speculation, but the Staryu line may be one of those space Pokemon that have landed on our planet. So if that's true, it makes them even cooler. You can name them after your favorite constellation. But if not, they are still classified as the mysterious Pokemon, so something more has to be going on there. It's quite gratifying when a Pokemon gets no special treatment other than just learning a couple of new moves each generation, and can still hang in there with some of the most favored Pokemon that get all the toys. I guess I should actually put that shiny Staryu I found in the Poképelago to good use. Number 2. Dragonite. Maybe you don't think it's fair to put a pseudo-legendary on a list of Pokemon that are still good because, of course, it was designed to be good. But just think about it this way. It's just about the only pseudo-legendary to have never had any update in support. Tyranitar, Salamence, Metagross, and Garchomp all got Mega Evolutions, but they didn't think to apply that gift back to Gen 1 as well? The closest thing that Dragonite ever got was a distribution with the move Extreme Speed, but it's not like that's even unique because you could get one of those in-game from the Dragon's Den. Even further, we see that Komodo immediately got its own special Z move, and when those were no longer a thing, it got a second signature move to replace that functionality. And of course, now we've got a Steel-type Hisuian Goodra in the ranks, and even Iron Jugulus gets in on the action. I mean, to me, that one is kind of a downgrade, but at the very least, it's getting some attention, right? Which is odd, because like Psyduck before it, Dragonite doesn't seem to be forgotten in any way, and in fact, it still seems to be a favorite, showing up often as a powerful but benevolent figure over weaker Pokemon. I know they made it the ace of an Elite Four champion with Lance, but that was a long time ago now. Maybe if there's a Legends or Let's Go Johto style game in the works, we could see a Dragonite get something, and again, I do think it's probably fine without it since Dragonite has ridiculously high attacks and good defense and a huge move pool, but it's only fair to have a little consistency across the pseudo-legendaries, because at this rate, I feel like Excalibur is gonna get thrown a bone long before Dragonite ever gets more than another episode of the anime where you just smile and say, "Aw, they're kind of nice," and then move on to forget about it completely. Number 1. Nidoqueen and Nidoking. There are few Pokemon out there as perfectly designed as the Nido Monarchs, making their mark as unique creatures drawing inspirations from numerous sources into a pleasant yet intimidating blend. However, most of their counterparts that you could put in a similar category have had some sort of upgrade over the years, while the King and Queen have been as unchanging as their enduring reign. First of all, as lovable as the previous monotyped Nido forms may be, these final evolutions were blessed with a really good typing of Poison and Ground that was unique until last year. And once again, their move pools are ludicrously expansive, having attacks for 16 of the 18 types, only missing out on Grass and Fairy coverage. That will easily cover their weaknesses, using a Fire Blast to take out the Ice, or an Ice Punch to take out the ground itself, or possibly the best of all, a Mega Horn to obliterate any Psychic types. Nidoqueen is a bit more rounded, having slightly better defenses, while Nidoking is a bit more offensive, but both can benefit from the Sheer Force ability, powering up any of their numerous attacks that have additional effects. And really, even if these Pokemon may not be the strongest that we've listed off today, they are undeniably at the top because of how early you can find them. When fully evolved, these Pokemon are not far off from the power level of your starters, and either form of Nidoran is generally found near the very beginning of the games. So given how soon they become Nidorina and Nidorino, and how those Pokemon evolve using a Moonstone, you could potentially almost match the strength of a final stage starter as early as the second gym. I mean, provided that you can trade over a Moonstone and don't mind missing out on some certain level up moves. The point is, a bunch of early game Pokemon are kind of designed to be usurped and thrown away for better options. But Nidoking and Nidoqueen are party members that can easily carry your team through to the very end. And you can get them well before other Pokemon that end up being weaker than they are. Granted, that's probably why those other Pokemon have had evolutions or regional forms added. I mean, I guess you could argue that having them split between male and female is special treatment, but that is nowhere close to the meddling that other Pokemon have received far after the fact of their creation. And despite that favoritism against them, these poisonous rhino monsters maintain their positive status to this day. So, those are the top untouched Pokemon from the Kanto region that still remain useful in their original state. That's not to say that others aren't as well, but it's so gratifying when other Pokemon seem to get all the attention, yet some Pokemon are still able to stand even a little close to those newly tricked out Pokemon, let alone be able to pass some of them under their own power. Which unchangeable Pokemon do you still find useful? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And until next time, stay grounded.